looks very different on this.
Hello there. It is Deb and Bec here, putting the balance back into relationships. And we wanted to start tonight. Oh, I'm just going to adjust my screen slightly. We're on my laptop tonight, which is a bit unusual. And you can probably tell by the quality of the video that it's not as good as Deb's, because hers is in the middle of doing some fantastic updates.
I accidentally pressed a button and it started to update, and we haven't managed to get back onto it yet. So hopefully you can bear with us if the quality isn't quite so good tonight. So sorry about that.
Yeah, but we wanted to start by letting you know about our next free 5-day challenge that's coming up. We had a little moment a few days ago, didn't we, where we decided that it would be a really good idea to do it on money, and we came up with the idea of doing a mini money mentoring, because we actually run mentoring programs anyway. But we thought a free 5-day challenge, sort of based loosely on how we operate our mentoring program, would be really, really good fun. So the topic's going to be money. The theme is going to be around a mentoring challenge. And it starts on the 28th of October and runs for 5 days. And you can sign up to it on our website, and we'll make sure there's a link below this video so you can find out how to join us for that. But that's going to be lots and lots and lots of fun. And we've already started to come up with ideas as to how and what we're going to do around that, because we've just had masses and masses of insights, and it's just been huge for us, kind of what we've seen and what's been helpful around money. So
absolutely,
we're really looking forward to that. So we thought we'd start by letting you know about that's coming up, and join in because it's going to be great.
Yeah, and it's all free, so even if you have money thinking, that's absolutely fine. You could join us anyway. So yeah, we would really, really love to have you join us for that. And then the other thing that I wanted to remind people of, if in case you haven't got your tickets yet for our upcoming conference, we are really, really excited about our conference. That is going to be from the 14th to the 16th of November, and that is in Westwood Ho, just down the road from us. And we had a retreat over the weekend, and we took a day out. One of the days we came out, and we came to Westwood Ho with a lot of people, and they were all looking around where the conference was going to be, and where the place. So it's a beautiful place to stay. If you're not local, it's an absolutely gorgeous place to come and have a couple of days. And the caravans on the front there, we can get a special rate in the caravans if you are interested in coming to the conference. And it's just going to be the most amazing 3 days. So don't miss out on that. And if you've got money thinking about coming to that, do the mini money mentoring, and then you'll be booking on the conference.
Yeah, the conference is going to be really good fun. It feels like we've been talking about it for over a year, because we did our last one in September, and then all of a sudden it's come to that point where you kind of, for ages, you plan something like this and it's like, oh yeah, that's
never
ages
gonna
away.
happen.
Oh, that's a year away. Oh, it's 7 months away. Oh, it's fine. And suddenly it's like, oh, the next thing that we're doing is the conference, the next big thing we've got happening. And yeah, we're kind of all systems go here, getting the word out, selling tickets, making sure people know how to get there, all that kind of stuff's going on in the background. But there is still time to get your ticket and be there. So
yes, absolutely. We would love you to be in the room with us. It's going to be an amazing 3 days. So you can find out about that on our website. I will, I can't remember whether I put a link below this before I started the video. I can't remember what links I did and what links I didn't. Hello, lovely Lisa. Lovely to have you with us. Come on, you need to be at our conference. If there's not a link below this, I will make sure there is a link somewhere that you can find out more details about the conference, the speakers that we've got there. There is so many extra things as well going to be happening there that it would be a real shame to miss that. So, and if you have questions or there's anything you're unsure about that, please feel free to get in touch with us. You can comment on this video, or you can find us on Facebook. You can find us our website, dareToBeYou.co.uk. We don't hide. You won't have to look too far before you can find us. So
yeah. So you're starting with the living and learning this week, Deb.
Yes, we have a really, really great show for you tonight. We've got a great question and a really fantastic topic. So I'll tell you, the question is, why am I always so unlucky? And that was a question that came to us from someone who's in the middle of a run of what looks like very, very bad luck at the moment. And then our topic is something we have kind of touched on a little bit. It seems to have come up for me in a few different ways, and that is suicide and the 3 principles. So that's what we're going to be talking about. But yeah, to start it off tonight, we're going to have our normal, living and learning. What have we been living and learning this week? And for me this week, it's been an incredibly busy week this week, because we had, as I said, that we went away on our retreat for a few days. So we had our normal workload, not that, our normal play load, I should say, really. And then we had all these wonderful people joining us for this retreat. So there was a lot going on. Had a lot of playtime there. We were playing time. Yeah. So, and what I noticed was, I saw again on a deeper level that system that we are born into, the system behind life, and how, even though there are many, many times that it doesn't look as if things are going to work out, and it doesn't look as if things are going to be okay, and it doesn't look as if, things are going to flow and unfold in the way that you would like them to. I just saw again this weekend and over this last week how much that I can trust life, and not get all het up and in my head and believe that everything is down to me and I need to do it all, and I need to be the one making sure everything works out. I'm sure you can imagine, with 17 of us turning up at the retreat, and everything, the food and everything that we had to kind of pull together to do that. I'm sure you can imagine that there were things that didn't quite go the way that we were expecting. Food that was forgotten, I don't know, all sorts of things. And one thing I'm sure you will have noticed, that Bec's voice isn't great tonight. So Bec was very, very poorly over the weekend as well. So that was kind of a factor in there, and kind of seeing that, how easy it is to get caught up in our head and kind of start to think that these things are our fault, or down to us to make them right, or down to us to change them. And I really saw again, that thing that we share, that if we show up and take responsibility, but know that we're not responsible at all. I had an email from a lady who'd been at the retreat after we got home, and was kind of saying about how much I'd been on the go, and how much, maybe we needed to think about working in how we could take more breaks and things like this. But what I noticed was just how much we are capable of, without getting overtired and without kind of doing too much. I actually came back from the retreat feeling very, very refreshed and in a great frame of mind, because I hadn't been doing it from that place of it's all on me. I'd literally just been showing up and taking responsibility, but not doing it with my shoulders and my neck and my head and that extra pressure that we are so good at putting on ourselves. So it was really, really great to kind of see that again, see that even more deeply, that how much we are taken care of, and how much we are actually capable of when we are just in that relaxed place of actually being, and the doing just comes through us rather than us pushing to make that happen. So that's been my living and learning this week, to just really see that again on a whole new level.
It's really because, as Deb said, a few things for the retreat didn't go quite as planned, and that's, for me, as far as I can tell in life, that is what happens. We make our plans, we go out, and God laughs at them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it really feels like that sometimes, in the sense of like what kind of played out for us with the retreat was that I'm definitely the kind of more organized one in terms of lists and planning and those kinds of things, and I'd done a lot of that in advance in the run up to the retreat. But we were kind of taking, like we do with these shows, we were taking the front of the room together. We were kind of going to sit and back and forward like we do, and that was how the weekend was supposed to roll out. We'd got a full retreat. We've got a lot of people coming that hadn't been to a retreat. In fact, I think there was only 4 people there that had ever been to one of our retreats before. So we had a huge crowd of brand new people to us, in a sense. And so there was this real opportunity of, get out there, show them what Dare to Be You are made of, kind of thing. And in my head, it was very much set up. We'd got the agenda, we knew what was happening. We get into quite a good rhythm of talking together. We knew what we were doing with the food, all that kind of thing. And we got there on the Friday and did lots and lots of kind of setting up and sorting out. And I felt on Friday afternoon I'd got a little bit of a sore throat. But sometimes, that happens, and it's just, it just kind of moves on. So I didn't think too much of it. But as the evening went on and as we did the introductory talk, I could feel that it was getting worse, and I could feel that as I was talking, I was struggling to finish my sentences because it was really catching in my throat. And so by the time I went to bed Friday night, I knew I wasn't feeling great. And I definitely went to bed, with fingers and toes crossed that it was just going to be a momentary thing, and I'd wake up fresh and ready to go. And I woke up Saturday morning and it felt like I'd got a golf ball wedged in my throat, which isn't nice at the best of times, but when you've got 3 days of talking ahead of you, not ideal. And definitely what I saw kind of over the weekend was twofold, really. And what my learning and living was that, one, a lot like we talked about last week on the show, the loving what is and suffering comes from arguing with what is. Yeah. And there was definitely moments over the weekend where I stepped into arguing. On the Saturday, I think I turned up Saturday evening for the meal, didn't I? And I hadn't shown my face for the whole day up till that point, I don't think. So Deb did all of the talks and all of the meals. I think Lucy helped out with some of the meals, but on the whole, Deb did everything that we were supposed to be sharing. And I know throughout the day, and the same thing Sunday and a little bit Monday, I went into arguing with what is. I shouldn't be poorly. This is my retreat. I've done all the organising. We've agreed to do this together. I know some of the stuff I wanted to talk about, some of the questions we got on the Friday night that we were going to look at over the weekend. I was like, I know what I want to share around that. I love this topic. I love these questions. And so I definitely went into a space of arguing with, I shouldn't be poor. This shouldn't be what's happening here. And without doubt, when I was doing that, I felt physically worse. I noticed that by Saturday night I got more of a headache than just a sore throat, and slowly my body was reacting to that, arguing that, not being happy with how things were panning out. So I really saw that, and I thought that was really interesting after our topic last week, and how much I've seen the acceptance stuff recently, that over the weekend there was definitely times when I was not coming from acceptance, and it did not look to me like what should be happening was that Deb had to take the reins and I had to sit back and do nothing. I physically couldn't have sat in that room and talked. I couldn't have got more than a couple of words out without sort of choking on my throat, and that kind of thing. And I was very weak, as you often are, with kind of flu type symptoms. And then the other thing I really came back to me again this weekend and over the last few days, it really fascinates me how the body works and how it heals and what comes through us as physical discomfort. And some of you may know this, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I did a year of no medication. So I went for a whole year, and no matter what physical ailments came for me, I didn't have any medication whatsoever. And I did that on purpose to kind of see and experience the healing system that we talk about. So we talk about how, as human beings, both physically and emotionally, we can come back to a place of balance, that our body heals itself and those kinds of things. So I did a whole year of no medication. Since then, I have taken medication for various things at various points, but I'm much more interested in connecting with my wisdom around that and taking medication if it seems right and not taking medication if it doesn't. And so this weekend I noticed that one of the things that was happening as I was feeling ill was that there was this desire not to fight it, not to kind of take medication from a space of, I should be running the retreat, I should make myself better so I can talk tomorrow and so I can go to the meal this afternoon and whatever it might be. And I really allowed my body to heal without me getting in on the system, without me trying to make it go faster or heal in a different way or a better way or that kind of thing. And I really watched again how much our bodies are designed to do that, how much we don't need to get involved in that healing system. Like I think the only thing I've done is had some vitamin C just to kind of aid my body's healing. And when my throat was particularly sore, I had hot water and honey a fair bit. But I've taken no drugs, no medication, no kind of paracetamol, Lemsip, pain relief, none of that at all from Friday night to today. And I've really enjoyed watching the journey. Oh, today I've got a sore throat. The next day, oh, today I'm more sneezy. Oh, this evening I'm more headachy. Oh, today I'm quite croaky. And it's really interesting watching the process that the body goes through. And to my mind, what's happening is that the body knows where its place of healthy balance is, and it's doing what it needs to flush out whatever the virus is that's working its way through my body. It's doing what it needs to flush that out. And the only thing I've really done is aid that in terms of getting lots of rest and not overdoing things. And I've really learned again how amazing our body is with healing. It's really blown my mind.
So that's like our body and our mind. It's seen between us. We've kind of seen those two systems again at play, that we are taking care of, whether it's a physical ailment or whether it's something that's going on in our mind. It's really, really helpful to be able to see that. The less that we get all into it, the less kind of worked up about it we get, the less we argue with it, the more that we do just love what is going on and allow what is going on to happen, that both mentally and physically we have this self-righting system and things find a way of working themselves out, and they do it beautifully without us interfering at all.
It's amazing to me how the body can do that. Like I haven't I'm not there going into my body going, right, if I can just get rid of the virus here, and if I can just remove, whatever it's hurting my throat here, and if I can just clear out whatever it is that's causing my nose to be so sniffly here, I'm not doing any of that. The only thing I'm really doing is giving my body the space to do that. Because one of the things I have noticed before when I've been poorly is when I kind of fight it and think, no, I'll get up and go to work, I'm fine, or I'll get on and I'll do this, I'm fine. It takes longer for that healing process because my body's energy is going into, getting showered or trying to do the work I think I should be doing. All my energy is going into that rather than into the healing process. And when I just step back and let my body go into healing mode, it moves a lot faster, because it hasn't got like two jobs going on. It isn't trying to keep me going and trying to heal. It can just focus in on healing. And I've really watched that process over the last 5 days. And I just love the kind of design of the system, if you like, that we can do that. And for me, as Deb was saying, that just works whether it's physical or emotional. That process is just at play all the time. And even if we fight it, it's still going to keep going. It's still going to keep getting back to that place of balance.
And when I was listening to you talk then, what kind of came to me was it feels like that wisdom that we have kind of tells us when it's time to rest and when it is time to do something. At some point, maybe it is right to do something, and maybe it's right to rest, and maybe on all sorts of things, whatever it is, if when Bec wasn't very well and I was doing stuff, sometimes I asked people for help, or people offered to help because they could kind of see what was going on, that clearly Bec was really doing that job, and now I was trying to do the job of two people. So people offered to help. And it feels to me like our wisdom kind of kicks in to say to us when to say, yes, please, that would be incredibly helpful, or, I need to rest at this point, or I need to do this at this point. It understanding, I guess that goes back to what we talk about a lot, know thyself, kind of seeing that this system, we're not kind of saying, so what you need to do is this. What we're saying is that you have this system exactly the same as we do, and you have wisdom that gives you in every and any given moment what to do next. Take the next step, do this next, rest next, get up next, and it's just kind of seeing that and seeing it more deeply. It's mind-blowing. It's brilliant. It's amazing. I just think human beings are awesome.
Incredible. We've got a comment from Pauline. This is how I have been too. Not had any medication and like you, just been really curious of how I respond to the symptoms. Love this. Yeah, exactly that, Pauline. And for me, the not having medication is exactly like you're just saying. It's following my wisdom. It's the, you know, and I wouldn't even say to someone else, don't have medication. If that's not right for you, take medication when it makes sense to you. But it was something for me that came a few years ago, from my wisdom, that was absolutely personal to me in that moment. And even now, like, I have times I do take medication sometimes when my wisdom says, for example, if I am feeling a bit poorly and what makes sense is to get some sleep, but the pain's kind of keeping me awake, I might take some pain relief so that it kind of gives me the space to have the sleep and rest. So I will just go with what my wisdom is saying in any given moment. And I think this is always about you getting, like you said, knowing yourself, getting to know what your wisdom's pointing to.
I think that is definitely the key. Kind of don't shut down anything. Don't kind of say, so I'm going to be the person who never has medication, or I'm going to be the person. Just be in that moment what makes sense to you in that moment. Be flexible enough and open-minded enough. I think being flexible and open-minded kind of opens this system that we're pointing towards, and it feels as if you get the best from it, whatever that is. So. And what's
Pauline's just put, yes, if I needed it, then I would, but I just knew I didn't need it.
Cool.
Exactly
that is, exactly. And it, both of those systems, whether it is, the emotional system or the physical system, it's knowing that if I need help, I'm going to get help, and if I don't need help, I'm going to do this. I think those two systems are exactly the same. And I think to a degree we are aware of our self-healing system. We know, even if we take medication or we do something, we know, when you got your cold, we didn't kind of think, oh, that's it now, Bec's never ever going to be able to speak again. You're never ever going to be able to help me. We're not going to
add one of those dramatic moments.
But we don't, we know that this system, it's going to work itself through, and you're going to be okay again. And I think one of the things that we sometimes don't see with the emotional side of things, we think if we don't get in there and sort this out, we're not going to come out of the other side. And what I saw, about a few things, because like Bec said, she was the organizer, and so I stood back a little bit, because that is definitely Bec's forte, and very much we are believers of, do what you're good at. So I have my things that I do, and Bec has hers, and so she had sorted the menus, and I just thought, Bec's going to be there, she's going to be able to tell me what to do next. I don't have to know this, so I'm not going to bother. And then all of a sudden, I've got to know this, I've got to try and work out what Bec's lists mean, I've got to try and I'm not, So it was really, really interesting to kind of see that even when we get in our heads about things, it finds a way to work itself out. The system is just whatever we need it for. We have something for that. Whatever ails you, we've got something this built into this system to suit that purpose. And when I didn't kind of get all in my head and all concerned and all worried about it, nobody went home hungry, even though maybe some of the meals and some of the things that we had weren't quite what Bec had in mind. It worked itself out perfectly.
Lisa's just put, I don't have paracetamol or aspirin in the house. I do take fresh lemon, ginger and turmeric and raw honey. And exactly that, Lisa, as well, that knowing you as we do, that's your wisdom. That's you kind of saying that's what makes sense to you. And that's hugely, for me, that I think my favorite thing about this conversation is that everything's on the table here. If your wisdom's saying take that, then take that. And I know a couple of people over the weekend offered me some medication, and I was just clear that I didn't want to take it. And yet, if they need that medication for them and their own purposes, that's just perfect. It's that knowing that wisdom will guide us to what's right for us. And even in your example there, Deb, there was, like you say, no one went hungry over the weekend. No one missed out on any sessions or anything like that, because your wisdom guided you to do what needed to be done in the moment. Even if, had I have not been poorly, there might have been some differences in how we kind of ran the menus, that kind of stuff. But it's knowing that neither of those outcomes means anything about the truth of who we are. You know, it didn't mean that because I got poorly and wasn't able to step up over the weekend in the way I would have done, it takes anything away from me because Deb did something possibly different with the menus to what we'd intended. That doesn't mean anything that takes anything away from who Deb is, the truth of who Deb is. And it's just seeing that in any given moment, I think that it just makes the difference for how much easier life is and how much more fun we manage to have in the midst of those random experiences.
It was a really, really great retreat with some beautiful experiences and some amazing people. And I think we've all come away from it with some great living and learning, whatever
Absolutely.
that was.
Sure.
Right, so the question. So this question came in from someone who's in a bit of a funk, I think, at the moment. I'm really struggling, and this person feels like, oh gosh, everywhere I turn it's just one thing after another after another. Why am I always so unlucky? Have you got something to say to that, Bec? Or do you want
I think I'll start by saying, interestingly, that not those exact words, but a similar kind of thing came for me over the weekend when in the first couple of hours of Saturday morning, when I really knew that for the majority of the retreat, I was pretty much out of the game. It definitely went through my head, oh, this always happens to me. I'm always poorly, always, particularly at the times, like I know I can probably think of examples in the past where I'm meant to have been doing something, or I'm on holiday or whatever it might be, and I felt poorly. And I noticed that we do that when a thought comes like, why am I always unlucky? Or in my case, it was, oh, I always get poorly when there's something I really want to do. We're really good at then going and finding the evidence to back that up. I could reel off without, probably not now because the thoughts kind of passed a bit, but in that moment, I could probably have reeled off a good strong 10 examples of how I always get poorly when there's something I really want to be doing. And I think when I hear questions like that, what I notice is that's what we do. We have a thought, and our thought system, in order for us to have the experiences that we have as humans, we're really good at gathering the evidence and creating that experience. Why am I always so unlucky? Right, I'm going to go out hell for the leather and prove that I'm always unlucky. Look, there's this example and that example and this time and that thing and there and here and there. And we're just really good at ramping up that experience of that kind of whatever that thought is that's kind of trying to bring it home to us. Look, see, here you are, unlucky again. And I really notice how we do that. And I definitely had a couple of moments like that over the weekend. Oh, here I am again, poorly. Another experience, another time when I should have been there having fun doing the retreat, and I'm ill. And we're just so good at doing that, aren't we?
What's coming to my mind when you're saying that, and I'm sure that some of you know this story, and I'm probably going to make a hash job of trying to tell it, but I know there's this parable of a farmer whose son, he had a teenage son, going back in the olden days, whatever, there's this farmer and he's got horses on his land, and he's got his teenage son who's helping him out on the farm. And his neighbor says, oh my gosh, aren't you lucky that your son can help you out on the farm? And he said, it just is what it is. It's neither luck nor bad luck, good luck nor bad luck. It just is what it is. And then the next thing, a war started, and so the soldiers were coming around to collect all the young men in the vicinity to take them away to war. They had to become soldiers and they had to fight. And so then all the neighbors of this man on the farm, this farmer, said, oh my gosh, how unlucky, your teenage son is going to have to go away to war. What a terrible luck. And the farmer kind of said, well, it just is what it is. And then before the soldiers got to their house to round him up, his son fell off one of the horses and broke his leg. So, then it's kind of, and so the story goes on, is it good luck? Is it bad luck? And I think that one of the horses ran away, and they kind of saying, oh, what terrible bad luck that you've lost your horse now. And then the horse came back from the mountains with some other wild horses that the farmer could then use. And it was just kind of being judged as, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. And the farmer just keeps coming back with, it just is what it is. And it goes back to, you know, the what we were talking about last week, the loving what is. It is us that puts judgment on things. We look at things, you know, Bec was poorly. It just was what it was. It wasn't, you know, a bad thing. It wasn't a good thing. It just was what it was. And it wasn't personal. Nobody kind of thought, oh, right, let's strike Bec down now, you know, and do this. It just is what it is. And, you know, if we just allow life to unfold the way life unfolds, we begin to see that it's just, you know, life kind of just does this, what it does. It meanders along, and sometimes this is happening and sometimes that is happening. And when we stop with all of that judgment, we just begin to see again that system that I saw so clearly again this weekend, that things just have a habit of working themselves out. Things just have a habit of unfolding the way that they unfold, and at some point we feel okay. And there are definitely some points when we don't, but we will come back to that place of balance. We will come back to that okayness. And when we don't enter into the judgment of those things quite so much, I find, you know, the less judgmental I am of what's going on, the more that I find the backdrop to everything, the backdrop to what I can judge as good and bad, is just pure love or beauty or creativity. It's just something, a place of peace that I can rest in is the backdrop to all of it. And when I stop getting so involved with, you know, whether it is this or whether it is that, that is kind of that's what's going on for me. And life is just good. Life is okay.
Yeah, and what I loved about what you're kind of saying there around the judgment and the backdrop is what's happening, of what kind of I've seen happening, is that when we misunderstand that backdrop is available all the time, when we think that backdrop can come and go and that we need something to be a certain way in order to feel that love and peace and connection, then it makes sense to judge. It makes sense to say, oh, this is going to take me away from the love and the peace and the happiness, so that's bad. This is going to give me more of the love and the peace and the happiness, so that's good. So we make those judgments when we misunderstand that backdrop, that kind of back here, the love and the peace and the happiness is always available. And as soon as we misunderstand or forget that that's the case, then we're going to judge it as good or bad. We're going to say, oh, this is going to give me more of that or less of that, so it's good or it's bad. And when we really start to notice that backdrop is there no matter what, that peace and that love and that connection is always available, the judgments kind of drop themselves away, because we notice that we don't need more of something or less of something to access this backdrop. It's just always available.
Yeah.
My throat went a bit dry, so I had to stop. I think you get the point.
Yeah, and that's kind of that system that we begin to see. We're more aware that is what is going on, and then life, you know, kind of plays its roller coaster, and what fun that can be. You know, what's going on next? What's going to happen next? What are we going to forget, or you know, what's going to play out next against this backdrop of perfect okayness? What is going to play out next? And it just becomes interesting to watch and to see what comes into your life and out of your life. It's a very different game to play than to believe that these ins and outs are what we judge them are what we see them as in those moments. And it's okay to do that too. It's okay to kind of just be in life, and that it's fun, you know. It's really the fact that the thinking that we have, the fact that we are gifted with this ability to create these experiences it's amazing, you know, that we can do that. It's just fantastic. And when we can see that we not only do we have these experiences, but we also have this backdrop, we get it all. You know, it's like an amazing gift that we get.
Yeah, okay. It always kind of, for me, I always come back to the metaphor of Monopoly. Like, we make the judgment in Monopoly that Mayfair and Park Lane are the bee's knees and Old Kent Road is, oh, just don't bother touching it kind of thing. And yet, when you're playing Monopoly, even in that game, I would say probably most people sort of know it's irrelevant, sort of know that.
While you're saying that now, do you know what just came to me? I was just sat here and I'd never actually really seen this before. We do make all those judgments about the stations and this and that.
Yeah.
And they are all the exact same cardboard squares on this board. Not one of them is any better than they're just cardboard squares. And the little houses are all the same little plastic.
Yeah.
You know, none of them are any different. And that's at our essence, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
There's nothing different. You know, we're all exactly the same, and then we get a different name, and is that name better or this name better, and we judge and we forget, and that's what plays out. And bringing ourselves back to the remembering of that is hugely freeing. It gives us that freedom that we always have, that's always available to all of us in every moment.
And it's somehow that going into the game of Monopoly, seeing that just means the game isn't quite so serious. I mean, I don't know, when we used to play as kids, it was never that serious. But I'm sure you can make it as serious as you like. And that, to me, is the same with life. You can take this as seriously as you like, but know that you're going to fold up the board game afterwards and put it all away. There's nothing riding on this. Or you can have oodles of fun and just buy every property you land on, because why not? Who cares whether it's brown or purple or a station, or, you know, and we can do that with life. And we can even switch partway through. Like, I know when I've played Monopoly, you get partway through and you're like, oh, I seem to have half of the oranges. I might as well just go for that then. I'm going to totally switch my gameplay here. And there's no, like, for me, the more I see what we talk about, the more I just keep coming back to, oh, I'm just playing Monopoly. There's nothing riding. I've made up the idea that the purple ones are better than the brown ones, and so on. And I'm just going to play whatever game's in front of me, depending on what appears to be unfolding. And it's just so much fun.
And in life, we just roll that dice, don't we? And we never quite know what is going to happen. Like you say, we can have a strategy with what we do. You know, I think it's quite fun. The retreat was the prime example of a strategy. We'd worked it all out. We knew how this was going to unfold. We knew what it was going to do. And then we rolled the dice and we didn't quite get the numbers that we thought we were going to get.
We did not land on Mayfair and Paper, or did we land on Mayfair?
Well, maybe we did. It's seeing that you can do all that, and it's a good idea. We're not kind of saying sit at home and don't do anything. It's a good idea to do stuff, but then just realize, you know, what you get, the numbers on those dice that you get to play with, they're okay too, whatever they are, even if they're not the numbers you're expecting. There is always something that you can do with them, because this system behind life is always guiding us. It's always there for us. We can always rely on it 100%, no matter what it appears is happening.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, excuse me.
Are you all right?
Yeah, just a little croaky.
Do you need a break, or can you carry on?
Well, it's you to talk next, so you can start us off on our topic, and I'll have a moment.
Okay. So our topic today is suicide and the 3 principles. And for one reason or another, this topic seems to keep, I don't know, appearing in my life at the moment, you know, for various reasons. And one of the things that until a short while ago I was quite unaware of was the statistics around suicide, especially in men, and the fact that the most likely cause of death for a British man who was under 45 and under is going to be suicide. And that kind of quite shocked me, really. And I have a son and I have a grandson, so it was kind of, it made me prick my ears up. You know, I was kind of like, well, you know, what's going on here, that so many men feel that that is the best way out when they, you know, get into they're not in a great place in their head. And I thought, well, you know, this is something that maybe it's worth having some conversations around. And I know it is a conversation that I would like to open at the conference when we do this. You know, it's something that I would like to address and talk about. And I know in one of our workshops going back a few weeks, this topic came up a little bit, you know, of suicide. And I think it's a topic that we can very often shy away from and be scared of. And I know, you know, the way that we talk about how life works, the way that we talk about how, you know, how we get our experience and how this happens, it can be, we're pretty much always pointing in the exact opposite direction for what you would think would be the best thing to do. And I know around this, it's very, very easy. And don't get me wrong, I am exactly the same. I get into fear around this too, you know, and what sometimes can come, you know, with things like this is that we need to stop it. We need to fight against this. We need this not to be happening. And as we were talking earlier, you know, when we were answering our question, very often, you know, and I know over the last few weeks, the topics that we've discussed, it's kind of come up again and again in various different ways. What we resist persists. When we fight against something, it actually makes it bigger and more prevalent and, you know, a more of an issue. And I think because we are so fearful of these kinds of things, it is very, very scared to take that leap and go in the opposite direction with something that appears so serious as this topic, you know, suicide. How can we kind of go in the opposite direction with it? How can we stop fighting against it? How can we stop being in that mindset of this cannot be like this? We can't allow it. You know, if we go back to our topic last week of loving what is, you know, how can we get into a headspace of loving something like a statistic like that, you know, it's, yeah, it's a difficult one. I totally hold my hands up and totally agree. It's not an easy one to get our head around. But where I would like to really, really start this conversation is, you know, looking the fact that that statistic has happened, the fact that it is the most likely way that a man, you know, more men will die in that way who are under 45 than any other way. It feels like something we're doing isn't working. You know, something that we're doing with the best will in the world and with love and kindness, somehow what we're doing isn't working. So is it worth maybe getting curious around this and what happens if we see this differently, if we look in a different direction, if we kind of understand that exactly as things are in the world right now is perfectly okay and we can accept that. And I know in one of the courses that we're doing, we sent out a little saying about acceptance, and I probably won't say it exactly right, but acceptance, you know, it was saying it doesn't mean I like what's happening, it doesn't mean I agree with what's happening, it doesn't mean I condone what's happening, but from that stance of fighting against something and standing up and standing against something, it kind of starts this push-pull thing that is what keeps it in place. And somehow a softer, more pliable, more you know, less rigid approach to it, accepting that yes, that's how this is right now. I accept that. I see the perfection in what is right now. Somehow brings us to this subject from a very different place. And I know one of the things, you know, I've been speaking to a young man who found himself in a position of feeling as if he wanted to commit suicide. And he said that he was very, very fearful about talking about this and very, very fearful about even opening the subject because he felt that he would be judged. He felt that if he went to the doctors, he would, you know, be it would be very, very difficult to bring the subject up, and that the doctor would immediately feel that there was things that he would have to put in place, and things that would have to happen that this young man really didn't want to happen. And interestingly, the fact that when we had this conversation, I was ready to just listen. And I was ready to allow this young man to do what he felt was necessary. And I think pointing him back to his own wisdom, and just being okay with whatever it was he wanted to do here, gave him the space to know that he could trust himself. And I think he managed to get a glimpse of his wisdom in that conversation. And something, right now he's still with us, so that's a good start. And I think that he is beginning to see that it's okay. For the first thing is, he's beginning to see that it's okay to have those thoughts. I think sometimes, when we have those thoughts and then it feels like there's nowhere we can turn and no one we can speak to, because I can't think what it is. Everybody's going to kind of come in and try and change that, and try and help you, and try and stop you, and try and make you see that differently. I think just knowing that we can have those really, really fearful thoughts, and even believe in moments that we're going to do that. And if we learn that it's okay to think that way, and that doesn't make us crazy, it doesn't mean that we can't manage our own life. It doesn't mean that we are stupid or inconsiderate. Doesn't mean we're any of these things that we're kind of piling on ourselves when we get in this place. And if we are just given the space to be able to see something different, this amazing system that we've been born into, this wisdom that each one of us has, it steps in. And it's only when we are crowded in and not allowed that space, to me, that's when we go down, when things happen in that way. So it's a conversation that I am really keen to open, and to get people looking in this direction, even if it does feel scary. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think for me, where you started with something isn't working about how we're approaching suicide prevention. And I know last week for World Mental Health Day, the theme for this year's World Mental Health Day was suicide prevention. And whatever it is that people are doing out there with this, it doesn't appear to be the answer completely yet, because it is still so prevalent. And so for me, that what you started with, the 180-degree turn, go in entirely the opposite direction. For me, that's about coming back to us getting to know ourselves. Like, the invitation is us to know who we are and why it is that we'd want to prevent suicide. Because what it looks to me like, when we talked earlier about the backdrop of peace and wisdom and love and connection, when we make those judgments that something's good or something bad, we're judging that because we think that those things will either get us closer to peace and love and connection, or they'll take us further away. And that goes for even something like suicide. We judge that as bad because we think it takes us. And I mean us. It's never about the other person. So if we're trying to prevent someone from suiciding, that's about us. That's about me. That's about me believing that my peace and love and connection comes from that person being alive. And that's a hell of a lot of pressure to put on someone. You need to stay alive so I can feel peaceful. That's a lot of pressure. So when I come back to the backdrop of knowing that my peace and love and connection is available, whether that person is alive or not, I am way freer to turn up with that person. And like you said with your client that you were speaking to, you can turn up from a space of everything's accepted here. Whatever thinking you're having, whatever suicidal thoughts you're having is acceptable. And by opening up that space for him, look what's shifted. He's not done that. He's not there right now. And that to me is because you connected with knowing that your backdrop is in place, whether that person's alive or not alive.
You know it for both of you. This is the point. You know they're okay no matter what, and you know that you're okay no matter what. And when you do manage to kind of get into that space, when you do have glimpses and see that, you do show up as a space where that person can ask for the help that they feel they need or want. And it's not to say that we don't ever put things in place. It's not to say we don't talk to these people and work with them and help them and try and solve problems it appears that they have, but it is way more on their suggestion. You know, if they say this would be helpful to me, or actually, do you know what, I don't want any help right now. I think it is about respecting each person, trusting their wisdom, and leaving that door open that they can always come back at any time. And if they change their mind, it's fine. A mind changes. We do, that's okay too. But just pointing out that every single human being has wacky, crazy, bonkers thinking. I've not met anyone yet. When I know at one of the meetups that we had had this thing, what's the most bonkers thought that you'd ever had? And some people, wouldn't even share in the room what their most bonkers thought might have been. And even if we just sit here and kind of say, sometimes I walk along the cliff paths around here that are absolutely beautiful, and the thought enters my mind, what would happen if I threw myself off it? And I'm not suicidal, and I'm happy, and I love my life, and I'm not going to. And if I became frightened of that thought and frightened of what I might do, and that thought escalated in my mind and got bigger, I could find myself in a lot of trouble. Knowing that human beings have crazy, bonkers thinking, and that those thoughts pass, and I'll just have another one. I just let my crazy, stupid, wacky, weird thinking just do what it does, and then I get on with my life. And I think definitely, with this young man that I talked to, when I just said, you know what, you can have any thought, anything. And then we kind of had this discussion about some crazy, bonkers thoughts that we might have. And we were laughing about it. And I said, yeah, the suicide thought can be one of those. Oh gosh, there it goes again. I'm thinking about it again. I'm even thinking about how I might do it. I'm even thinking, oh, ha, 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 shall we have a cup of tea? And it becomes something very, very different when we are not scared of the thinking that is in our mind, when we see that we are this backdrop, we are that, and any thoughts that come up in front of that, that's okay. It's fine that happens. I see we've started something.
Yeah, we've got Richard's first of all said hello and great topic to discuss. Then he's put, when I worked with the Samaritans, we always gave suicidal people the opportunity to express how they felt without us or our ego trying to change them. Everyone's on their own journey. Like if someone is in a hole, we sit with them, but we don't force them to change their feelings. They can only change by understanding themselves first, not by us as humans trying to force them to change. Ready to listen and hear unconditionally without our own opinions. Yeah, and it's absolutely that. It's turning up from acceptance. And I think what I've seen is that when we are fearful that if we go in the opposite direction, if we sort of say, oh, it's acceptable to feel suicidal, it's even acceptable for them to suicide if that's what they're going to do. What we then fear is they might actually do it. So we're trying to trick the system. We're saying, oh, if I think it's okay and they do it, oh, that's not actually okay. When we genuinely see that whatever plays out is okay, is acceptable, then we can drop back into acceptance. And from that space, whatever plays out is what's going to play out. And our argument of that isn't going to change what's going to play out. It's just going to cause us more suffering and thus somebody else more suffering, because we're all connected here. And I know when you turned up with your client from a place of acceptance, it just gave them the space to go, oh, what if that isn't really what I want? Because I think what we can do is dig our heels in. And if Deb was going, no, you don't want to suicide. No, you can't do that. Let me stop you doing that. they're going to dig their heels in. Yeah, I do actually, because we kind of can't help ourselves. If you've probably noticed for yourself, when someone comes at you to say, no, don't do what you want to do, whether it's buying a bag of chocolate from the shop or as serious as suicide, whatever it is, somehow we want to argue that, no, I do want the chocolate. No, I do want to suicide. But when we turn up from acceptance, everything is acceptable here, then somehow it gives the space for that person to really explore what they actually want to do without us having something riding on it. And like you said, then they get to see for themselves, that their okayness is still intact, whatever thinking they're having.
And, I think as human beings, we have to accept that we are not in charge of this universe, and it's not for me to decide who lives and who dies. That's way above my pay grade, way above my pay grade. But, this amazing system that we've been given, and this beautiful life, this wonderful, opportunity to experience all sorts of things, it looks to me in every way, as we begin to understand that the best that is available to us comes to us. Now, I don't know what the best that's available to me or to anyone else. That does not look like that is mine to decide. But like Bec said, we can't trick this system. But I know that there is some amazing things available. And I know that an intelligence way greater than me is at work here. And I can trust that. Even if some of the things that happen in life, whether it be that I drop a bag of sugar, or whether it be that somebody has these suicidal thoughts and God forbid actually does that, it's not mine to decide. But we have been given with this understanding, and we can be compassionate, we can be kind, we can be there, exactly what Richard was describing. If we can learn to be there for people, not from a place of fear, to me, we give everybody the best chance to have their best experience, and it is not mine to decide or judge what their best experience is. So has there been some more said? Or
I think Pauline just had to go, and Richard said absolutely.
Cool. Okay, so that was it is a tough topic maybe to speak about, but it's kind of seeing that actually, do you know what, no matter what the subject is, this that we are pointing towards works the same way for everybody all the time, whether it be stubbing your toe or the worst possible thing you can possibly imagine. That what we're pointing to, and peace and love and this wisdom is always available to all people. There is huge hope in what we are sharing. And there is huge hope when you point people back towards themselves and back towards, their own innate wisdom, their own innate mental well-being. People are amazing and awesome, and it is fantastic how quickly and how well and how amazingly people can turn around given that opportunity. So I hope some of what we've shared tonight has been helpful. And if it has brought things up for you, if it has brought questions up for you, we are available, we are here to answer those questions if we possibly can. Yeah.
So our topic next week.
It's written on the board behind. So next week we are going to be talking about being, not doing.
Yeah, that's a really lovely topic. And our question next week is everyone really always okay?
So that might be a really good follow-up from what we've been talking about tonight, to kind of delve into that a little bit and see, what we mean by that okayness and the fact that everyone's okay.
Yeah, and as we said at the beginning, we've got our free 5 days mini money mentoring coming up. So we'll put in some information below this video as to how you can join in with that. That's an entirely free 5-day challenge. As always, if there's stuff that's come up from this and you have questions or topics you want us to cover, be in touch. And there's lots of ways to work with us if you want to deep dive into this conversation more. You can be in touch or go to our website, daretobeyou.co.uk, to find out how to do that.
Yeah, so I think that is probably everything for tonight. It's been really, really great to have you with us. We've had some really nice comments and some really great conversation going on there. So yes, and hopefully we will see some of you at our conference very, very soon.
Yes.
But before that, we will be around all over the place. So hopefully we will see you somewhere very, very soon. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you again.
Thanks for watching.
Bye for now. Bye.